peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very much, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the headquarters in Nairobi. Thank you very much. And from the political command center of Punchline Africa Television, miles and miles away from Kenya, Nairobi, I am Dr. David Matanga. Today is Diaspora Dispatches. In Diaspora Dispatches, we shall be looking at the role of external NGOs, dark forces, non-governmental organizations that help to bring regime change in Africa, sponsored by external dark forces on this continent of Africa. The guests today to this lecture are from Zimbabwe. 5 of them, they were supposed to come in. Several others will come in. We want to get a real experience of how regime change operatives work in Africa. How regime change is bringing conflicts. Many of you on the African continent watching this show are aware that Libya is no more. Many of you watching this show are aware that Mogadishu, Somalia, is no more. Central African Republic is no more. The Sahel region, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Biafra, most of those Central African Republic, those countries are no more. We have now a war near you people in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique. Across the border in Mozambique, the ISIS, sponsored, equipped by Qatar, have taken a base in Mozambique. The northern part of Mozambique is under siege from external dark forces that have brought colonialism, neo-colonialism on this continent of Africa. Today, we have seen Democratic Republic of Congo under siege from the forces, dark French forces that have created chaos. This show, therefore, speaks with no fear from anybody. We have no fear. We tell it as it is. Libya is no more. General Khalifa Haftar, sponsored by the French to mutilate, to kill the people of Libya. Today, African Union is helpless. The Organization of African Union, or African Union as you call it, is helpless. It has no powers to stop any war in this continent. A regime change in Mali was anticipated. First, they sponsored the opposition. Then later on, allowed the opposition to come to the streets of Bamako. President Keita, elected by the people, was overthrown. We have seen many changes on the continent of Africa. Time has come now for people of Africa to sit down, the people of Zimbabwe, to engage the world, to find out what went wrong. Why are NGOs very interested in removing governments in Africa? Who pays the NGOs? There is one man very, very, very familiar. For the case of Zimbabwe, you have 4 enemies. Enemy number 1 is George Soros. Enemy number 2 is Kofi Annan Foundation. Enemy number 3 is G40. Enemy number 4 is, guess who it is? Vanguard Africa. Vanguard Africa sponsors Vanguard MDC. You have been looking, all of you in Zimbabwe, talking who brings violence, who abducts people, then turns around to say, oh, who has abducted who? Vanguard Africa sponsors Vanguard MDC. Is it a coincidence? Therefore, you people in Zimbabwe, you don't see this, that there is a group paid to do certain things, to label it on government. It's a guerrilla tactic to win support from external dark forces that mutilate, that kill Africa. My stand, therefore, I've been struggling for this country called Zimbabwe since 1997, when the first takeover over the land reform. Today's subject will not touch land. We need another day to tackle the land issue because it is very emotive. And I warned Amai, Abigail, I think you are told, let's skip the land issue today. Let's bring in the issues of NGO. Land issue, we are coming to it. Now you have been introduced to the platform of Pan-African Station. You should not hold back to come and join hands to fight for your country. The MDC are molesting you. The SABC is molesting you because you don't want to be in a platform that gives you the will to talk. Everybody is watching on social media. There are no more people watching SAB, a racist organization, employing a small young man called Ndoro, molesting you from Marondera. I know him. I know his background. Very cheap guy from Marondera, molesting you. He needs to find other big-headed guys like I. Then we can square it out on the question of Zimbabwe. But don't worry about that. My role today is to moderate. I will say I am going to stop here and trigger the mechanisms of moderating and asking questions on serious questions. And when you want to speak, you come in and speak. I'll speak, I'll begin with ladies. But I want Miriam to read, to introduce to us the topic from the general headquarters of Punchline Africa in Nairobi. Thank you, Miriam. Give us the topic. We have introduced each other already. And we need, when you start to talk, you say where you are from, what you do, briefly, then you give your response. Amai, Abigail, you will be on the line first. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. David Matanga. So our topic of the day today is the role of external and local NGOs in violent regime change against Zimbabwe. So that is what we'll seek to be looking at today. And thank you so much for joining us. So we start with the introductions there from Abigail.
I think that's okay. The topic is the external dark forces. Abigail, take it away from there. Miriam, thank you very much. Take it away from there, please. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are hearing you, but halfway. I don't know.
All right.
All right, let me, if anybody who is ready from Zimbabwe, Saxon, can you take it over? Unmute the phone.
Okay. Good morning, viewers. Zimbabwe has been under attack from the darker forces, that is the NGOs funded by the West. Let me just give a a brief background on how our NGOs are segmented. During the 1980s, the international financial institutions like IMF and World Bank forced indebted African nations to reduce expenditure on public expenditure. This actually created the room for the NGOs. Now, NGOs in Zimbabwe are segmented into, they come into generations. The first generation are those that supported the whole liberation war, that was the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, the faith-based organizations. 1980, when we got independent, the government also promoted some certain organizations to complement and augment the services or providing like education, health, and it also promoted the formation of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Union as part of the what we call second generation NGOs. During the 1990 to 1999, there's a third generation of NGOs which focused on human rights, and these were formed on the backdrop of the economic adjustment programs. And these economic adjustment programs were from the West, and they created these economic adjustment programs to decimate Africa. They knew that the Cold War had ended because most of the countries were pro-Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union and China helped African nations to be independent. These third generation NGOs gave birth to the MDC, where the likes of Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, the ZNAS, which was for students, the midwives for the formation of the movement for democratic change in 1999. In 1998, Zimbabwe had food riots, which were orchestrated and organized by these NGOs and the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Union. In 2000, Zimbabwe embarked on the land reform with a new violent form of NGOs, with the likes of Crisis Coalition in Zimbabwe, New Zimbabwe Trust. All these organizations, none of them are funded from Russia or China. They are funded from the West. They're funding the programs, everything is done from the West. They are not independent. They push the agenda of the Europeans, the agenda of America. George Soros funds Amnesty International, who are at the forefront of criticizing Zimbabwe. The challenge that we have with these NGOs, with Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, they provide free legal service to political activists, not to anyone. You might be fired from your workplace, they don't represent you because they're not serving the interests of the Americans. With Zimbabwe Doctors for Human Rights, they are pushing, encouraging and paying our doctors to go on strike, frontline health workers in this COVID era, so that people that blame the government, they are paid. They don't even, whenever there's a strike by the doctors, they don't come in to help. Their interest is not for Africa. It's not for Zimbabwe. It's for their masters. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that sharp introduction. I think all of you have heard. Abigail, you have come back now. You can join us, Abigail. Abigail, you can use audio. We can hear you from audio point of view. Abigail, okay, it's Abigail, yes. Madam Abigail Mupambi, thank you very much. Saxon has raised a very good number of issues. The background to the NGOs in Zimbabwe, how they have been used to mutilate democracy, to create upheaval, to plan evil. I want to cross over to Professor Onyadi. The background of NGOs in Africa. What are NGOs? They are supposed to be giving services, complementing the government role in democracy, in teaching people civic rights. But NGOs, most of NGOs in Africa have become opposition political parties. They are not part of the complementary status that we know of, like in Britain. They don't become, they are not political parties. But in Africa, our NGOs, yes, go ahead. Professor?
Thank you, Dr. Masanga, for that question. And these are very important topic for the people of Africa. Thank you, Rod, because you have given a foundation of what the NGOs ought to be. They are not supposed to oppose. They have got a role to do in terms of development, in terms of promotion of human rights, in terms of democracy. But that is not the case in most NGOs in the continent of Africa. You have given an elaborate and a detailed background to what has happened to African countries. Look like the country like Libya, which you have given, which used to support itself. It was a country in a desert, but sustained in food. So what do I want to say? That the people who are so much interested in having regime change in Africa, you should ask yourself, when there's a regime change, when there's a change of government, and the people don't have food to eat, children don't go to school, people walk hungry, people walk naked, is that the Africa you admire? So anyone who comes to the continent of Africa, look like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was used to be referred as a food basket of the continent of Africa. They will produce food which they can feed the continent of Africa. They have got precious minerals. But you think the West or the outsiders are happy with the continent of Africa? I have said here before, and I am reiterating Dr. Masanga and my fellow panelists, there is nobody from the continent of Africa who will take Africa forward. Africa will always have misunderstanding, we will always have conflict, but we should find ourselves, how do we talk to one another? How do we engage? How do we have a conversation? How do we have a discussion? This is what needs to be taken forward for Africa. I can use Kenya as a case study. You have had the kind of misunderstanding, the kind of conflict, even ending up to International Criminal Court. Thank God with your good effort and being Pan-African, Kenya, we have managed to come out of it. You have talked about the conflict which was between the President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Prime Minister. There is no sense in talking to one another. So I want to say to the people of Zimbabwe, my sisters from Zimbabwe, my brothers from Zimbabwe, there is no way we can take Zimbabwe forward. I want to echo the words of the Pan-African leaders. They said Africa will never be free until all the countries in Africa are independent. Africa will never be free even this point in time when Zimbabwe is having sanctions, when the NGOs, the likes of George Soros, are bringing misunderstanding and are bringing money to take Africa backward. The only way taking Africa forward is for us engaging with one another. I'm happy the rights of Africa and Saxon are here to say, how do we take Zimbabwe forward? The time when Zimbabwe needs its African brothers, it is now. I'm happy with what the President Emerson is doing. He's trying to say that my brother Chamisa, can we talk? So the NGOs and the people from the civil society, let us give dialogue a chance. Let us have a conversation. We want to develop Africa, and Africa will be developed by the people who are here this morning, Daniel, Karen, Dr. Masanga, Saxon, Abigail, myself and others. This is my recommendation that NGOs, we are supposed to complement, not to compete with African, with governments. And where we don't always agree, we can always have a discussion, Dr. Masanga. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Professor Gerard Onyari. You have raised the point of Africa must unite. Africa must see. Africa must help each other. You have also raised the point of Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe has come from. Why people are against this government of Zimbabwe, yet there are so many things that it has done which you cannot reverse. And there are so many things that we need if you have a country is under siege without any foreign investors, without any borrowing, without getting money from the IMF, from World Bank. The point that Saxon raised, surely you can't expect that country to survive. But here we are, Zimbabwe has survived. Let me come over to one of the gentlemen from Harare, from this corner. I don't know whether you are hearing me. In the corner section, there's somebody on the screen. You want to make your contribution from Harare? Okay. You are out on the streets in Harare. You are bringing us a live picture of what Harare is, which is very good. On the other corner, down deep, you can see one of our comrades bringing us live. We wanted you to see what exactly is in Harare. Yes, the comrade in the corner. Thank you very much. We come back to you. But let me bring in Sean Wasonga. What is your view on NGOs, the role of NGOs in African politics?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And of course, Africa as a continent, we do have a similarity in history with countries of Southeastern Asia, that is Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and China per se, because these countries were equally colonized by the same colonial masters that colonized Africa. And remember, in Africa, when these colonial masters came here on the continent, they found our people governing themselves. We as a people governing ourselves, depending on our cultural and moral diversities. And that was the most effective way we could work as a people. And they came, they imposed on us their kind of leadership, their kind of system that they used to have back at home. And that was the system that even after leaving this continent, when we started getting independence, that was the system that they expected us to continue having with. And that is what so many African countries were given constitutions that did not match the kind of lifestyle, the kind of cultural diversity that we have as a people. And whatever point that they never told us is that, they are having these constitutions, but they were hundreds of years in terms of civilization ahead of us. And they also did not tell us that for these kind of documents to work back here in Africa, we need to have a community that is economically empowered. We need to have a vibrant middle-class society. And we need to have a very, very high number of literate individuals for these, their norms, their constitution to work. So for them to come and tell us about the issues of democracy, human rights, and bringing NGOs, then that is where the system now failed on Africans, because you find that many of our people, many of our countries do not have the capacity, they do not have the structures to be able to implement these requirements that the Western powers are really forcing on Africa. And that is the point of departure and whatever is causing chaos in African leadership. And yesterday when I was studying the case of China, even as today, China has told the Western power that it will not be able to implement their policies that they want. Rather, China, being a bigger nation with a very huge population and a diverse culture, will be doing these carefully in stages, looking at each area they can be able to adjust and doing it accordingly. But otherwise, being able to impose these very unique culture from the Western on the people of China will bring a crisis, and that is what is doing in Africa. Unfortunately, for African leaders, we did not repel such kind of coercion from the Western powers, and that is why today we are having leadership crisis in a majority of African countries. So, as African people, we need to come out. We have to spell to reevaluate our constitutions. We need to look at the clauses. We need to look back at our cultures and be able to enact laws that will enable us to have a self-governance. We need to redetermine our destiny as African people, as Professor has said, so that we don't have constitutions that were created somewhere else and just brought in African continent to be able to control the way we do our business here. We have to tell the Western powers that Africa will not be a model to measure success of the Western political structure and Western economic policy. So that is the way we should proceed going forward as a people. And when you look at Africa vis-a-vis the Asian tigers that we had the same colonial masters with, these countries, by ignoring these norms, these policies, these constitutions that were being brought by the Western powers, by these countries regulating their civil society, the NGOs, the media. These countries have grown their economy immensely, and today, majority of them have moved from the third world to the first world category when it comes to economic development. Still grapples with a majority of its population below the poverty line. So I think I agree with our comrade from Zimbabwe. I agree with you, Dr. Matanga. I agree with Professor Jared Onyari that Africa needs to chart its own future when it comes to leadership, when it comes to our economics, when it comes on how our people elect each other in elections.
Thank you very much, Shoni Wesonga. Can I cross over to Harare? I am crossing over to Harare. Alex, unmute your phone, Alex. Father Alex, unmute your phone. Unmute your phone and hear us. You are put on a mute. Father Alex. Alex, unmute your phone. Unmute it. Unmute. You are pressed. You have muted your phone. Yes. Unmute it. Saxon, you have to send a message for him to change. Yes, Alex. Alex. Now we can hear you. You can hear me? That is Father Alex, isn't it, Saxon?
Yes.
Yeah, but he is. Can you speak now? Arrange yourself, then you speak next. Anybody in Zimbabwe, Godfrey Mutidi, are you ready? If not, let me go.
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes, Godfrey. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Mzee.
Yes,
Habari.
You are calling me Mzee. I'm not yet Mzee. Okay, I am Mzee. Thank you very much. Godfrey.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, my brother. The role of NGOs, external NGOs that are pushing for regime change in Africa. What comments do you have?
Let's get the ball rolling. Let's hear what the other comrades have to say. We see NGOs and we see them providing water, providing electricity, looking after orphans, treating HIV patients and their vulnerable children, looking after the environment. This is what we see. The other aspect is what we are supposed to go through in the program to analyze if there is another interest beyond this philanthropic agenda which we can see.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, stay on the line. Let me cross over to Kennedy Mandaza from wherever you are seated. I can see you. Kennedy, can you chip in from Harare? Kennedy Mandaza, unmute your phone.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. You have...
Yes, I...
Yes, go on.
I am joining from South Africa.
Thank you.
Yes.
Make your comments, opening remarks.
It is always a pleasure to interact and join with fellow Africans in pursuit of making the Africa that we want, and the discussions that are done as a collective in unity inspire hope in many of us. And it is for that reason that we find it prudent that we are in this particular platform to learn and interact with fellow Africans.
You are from South Africa, and I believe you are Zimbabwean.
Yes, I'm a Zimbabwean resident in South Africa currently.
The role of NGOs, South Africa has got 1,966 NGOs surrounding the government of the Republic of South Africa. They are funded by Mr. George.
Sure. The role of the civic organization and non-governmental organizations in Africa and in South Africa in particular is important, particularly given the extent to which many of our fellow brothers and sisters require assistance at a time when governments are hamstrung in terms of provision of services that are required. And the non-governmental organizations and civic organizations come handy, given the constraints that they face, especially now that we have the COVID-19.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Stay on the line. Abigail, are you ready to make your comments?
Yes,
Abigail.
Are you catching up with, yes, are you catching up with me well?
Yes, very well now.
Yes, thank you so very much. Allow me to dwell on the subject. I would want to take you a little bit into defining the role of civic society across governments. It is the governments that sets the name. To that end, it becomes wrong and naive to have a parallel agenda set by NGOs. That then draws me into ourselves here as Africa. Now, the proper narrative is that the NGOs that are responsible for setting this national civic society agenda, but they want funding.
Yes, we can't hear you properly, but you can turn it to audio. We now know your picture. You turn to audio. Switch to audio and speak. You will speak very nice. Yeah, now speak.
Okay, thank you. I was
I think I will call you. Yes.
Yes.
I think I will call you direct on the other line from the studio. Okay. You have a problem with the internet. We shall go on direct line with you. Open up your direct line with us because you are the main person of NGO. I'm going to call you on direct line, then you speak and the rest will hear. Let's come over to Father Alex. Father Alex, I hope you are now settled. We can't hear you. You are now settled? Yes, production team, allow Alex to come in. Yes, Father Alex. Don't worry, this is, yes.
Disconnect the earphones and then maybe tap on call over internet on the...
Disconnect the earphone.
Disconnect the earphones and then tap on call over the internet.
disconnect the earphone and then just talk to the phone. Disconnect the earphone from the phone. Yes, then remove from the phone.
I have removed.
Aha! We hear you now. Thank you very much. Talk kabisa. Asante. Shaman.
How are you, sir?
Thank you. Welcome to our show. You have really struggled all the way from the city center. Welcome to the show. Take us through the NGO.
Thank you so much. I think you hear me well.
Yes, we hear.
The problem that we have as a country, the problem that we have as a country. Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, go
Yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
clearly.
Right, it's okay. The problem that we have as a country is that we are a nation thriving as a result of economic sanctions that are illegal. And these were imposed by the Westerns to start with the United States, the European Union, and the British. So these sanctions brought difficulties upon Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe as a country was isolated. Being isolated means that we were put on an island, and lines of credit were disconnected. Direct funding for government to government was cut down. So we are a country living in isolation as a result of bullish attitude by Westerns. For they wanted to impose their own type of democracy on Zimbabwe. As a result, they now came up with a strategy of engaging Zimbabweans through civic society organizations, through non-governmental organizations. But these are not non-governmental organizations practice. They use the term NGO as a cover story to create access to the citizens of Zimbabwe. These are anti-government organizations. And we started to saw them around 1999, 2000, 2001, when MDC political party was established, receiving blessings and backup from the Westerns. So the main role for these civic society organizations, as you know, according to the private voluntary organization in Zimbabwe, civic society organizations does not have a limit in terms of accessing citizens. So they were robbed in as conveyor belts to relay regime change agenda. And since they were well funded, they were given foodstuffs. So in short, the Westerns looted from our country. After looting, they then established organizations that are now coming back to our country with small profits from proceeds of our country to try and pretend they're feeding our people. But these NGOs have wanted to collect database as spies. They feed George Soros. George Soros equates to the CIA of America. So they put government so that they empower the non-government side. Therefore, putting our people in the situation of trust in governmental organizations. So we're a situation where all the trust that is supposed to be put on government is transferred to the non-governmental organizations that are anti-government. But if you look at these non-governmental organizations, they cease to be non-governmental organizations. Why? Because they are being funded by governments of other countries. So you don't qualify to be a non-governmental organization when your survival is depending on other governments that are anti-government of your own country. They did this after discovering that the opposition party, in its uniform as an opposition political party, does not have access to some parts of the country. So the only way to people's minds is through their stomachs. They invested lots of money in non-governmental organizations so that they make donations. They crippled, we had our own beam here in Zimbabwe.
a fund that was assisting students who does not have school fees. They replaced with organizations such as Plan International, among other organizations. But all these, I want us to agree from today that in Zimbabwe, we do not have more than 10 NGOs. We have a host of AGOs. These are anti-government organizations. Organizations that have very sound relationships with American embassy, more than the government's relationship with that embassy. Organizations that enjoy privileges and finances from the Dutch, from the Switzerland, from the Canadian embassies, more than the government is doing. When here I'm saying we created the social to Zimbabwe, that money is not going into the coffers of government, but into the coffers of these organizations. Why? Because the organizations are fronting a regime change agenda. Whenever there is violence in Zimbabwe, the violence is perpetuated by anti-government organizations. They even set up organizations like Law Society of Zimbabwe. They are controlling Law Society of Zimbabwe. They have an organization for Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. They have set Zimbabwe Doctors for Human Rights. They are doing this to make sure they convert every profession into a political thing, which is very, very dangerous. In Zimbabwe, I can tell you, doctor, we now have the personnel. We now have almost everybody becoming a politician. And this is a crisis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Father Alex. That is Father Alex from Harare. He wanted to show us the entire street of Harare. We are happy to see how clean it is. Despite all this, I think most of you from Nairobi, wherever, those who have not gone to Harare, Karen from Malindi, Professor Onyari, who went to Harare a long time ago, it's clean, despite all this difficulty. And one of the things that I would like to tell you about the people of Zimbabwe, which I know, is they are law-abiding citizens. They abide by traffic lights. They don't pass traffic lights when it is red. When it's green, they pass. When it's red, they stop. Most of us in Uganda, oh my God, we've knocked down cars that are stopping at the traffic lights. I don't know about Professor Onyari, who will say what we do here, but I don't know whether we do, you know, keep the discipline. Zimbabwe being as it is, we want to bring an image of the Zimbabwe, which is real. That's why today we have brought people from the ground. And they are our people, other people, Zimbabweans in opposition. We don't mind whether you are in opposition. If you can come on the screen, the numbers are here. Challenge us here. Come and say, challenge us. This is what you are doing wrong. Instead of running to George Soros to report it to a Muzungu, then the Muzungu comes back to molest. Then why did you get independence? Why did you get independence? You got independence to direct your affairs. Why do you direct your affairs? The difference with the NGOs that we see today is some NGOs are created to become political. When I grew up, NGO was teaching us how to watch hands. So that Corona, you know, we knew Corona was there before. Most of us who grew up in good families and bad families together, we all washed our hands. And we were taught that wash your hands. If you don't wash your hands, don't eat food. Those are the type of NGOs that Africa wants. But does Africa want these current NGOs that want power, that want to buy Law Society of Zimbabwe, Doctors of Zimbabwe, to come to demonstration? Even COVID-19 is present. Karen from Malindi, your view.
Well, Dr. and my fellow panelists, this is what I think we as Africans need to be very awake right now. And because we have our own regional meetings, we should use these regional meetings to check what are their interests. and know what you can accept and know what you cannot accept. Because if it continues going the way it is, we'll not have any gold in our countries anymore, we'll not have any diamond in our countries anymore. And they're the same people who are now opposing, they're becoming opposing political parties. Before we know it, we will be fighting. So, like one of the panelists just said that the NGO, this word NGO is just a cover-up. And that is the truth. So the earlier the better we get to know that it's just a term to cover up. They're actually on a mission. And if we do not wake up, we will still be under colonization, because they are not here, but they are colonizing us indirectly. So it's time that Africans wake up. If we do not take caution, if we do not meet in these meetings and have this as an agenda, then we will face lots and lots of we'll have issues to do with other people coming in, controlling us. We own the countries, we own Africa, but they're taking control of it, and that's not how it's supposed to be. So let us take advantage of these regional meetings. Let us have this as an agenda, and let us know to which extent will we allow them. If they have to offer drugs to provide clean water, fine, but they cannot go when it comes to making everything politics. I mean, changing everything.